Hello Ride On people, you know what I'm going to say. Welcome to another beautiful day in Georgia. There's my Triumph over there and I'm about to ride another Triumph, the Triumph Street Triple. Join me for the ride. Okay, let's start her up. Switch to sport mode. So this is the Triumph Street Triple 765. I've not ridden this before, and this is an R model, so it's a slightly more road focused model. It's basically the same as the RS, it's just that the RS has a few more ponies and a better quality rear shock. And I've been riding it for about half an hour now because I wanted to get a good general feel for it before I started making comments about it. And I'll go through the specs and all that good stuff a little bit later, but I really wanted to get a little feel for it before I began to comment on it. That was very nice of that man to let me buy. I think he knows that I want to have a little bit of fun. And this Triumph Street Triple R has been lent to me by a friend, Richard. He knows it's a bike that I've always been interested in. I've actually owned a few speed triples in my time, but I like the idea of something even lighter and a little bit more usable. And I wanted to see what this is like because the new 2023 models are just coming out, and in fact they've just had the launch this week as I record this, and the reviews are very positive. Triumph haven't messed it up. It's always been a highly enjoyable, great road bike, but Triumph being Triumph, they keep on improving it a little bit. It's pretty much the sportiest bike in the group, if you like, or certainly the most refined or grown up, call it what you will, and maybe the most developed. But it's also had quite tall gearing, and in fact on the new one they've lowered all gears beyond first gear. And the next year's model has a little bit more power, so I know that if I really like this bike, then you know what's not to like about the incoming new model. It'll certainly make it a definite potential for me. I think it's a bike that you have to ride for a few miles to get used to it. And fortunately Richard has said that I can have this bike for like, you know, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to get a good feel for it and actually ride it on some familiar roads. So I can get a good feel for how this compares with my big, tall, heavy adventure bike. Not that it's a direct comparison, it's obviously a totally different bike that you buy for totally different reasons. And in some ways it's quite the antithesis to, you know, a big, practical, comfy, heavy, you know, all-round tourer. This is a little ripstick, it's a little whippet, it's very cheeky. It's a little like, well, little being the operative word. It's just so light and small, and certainly, you know, riding it after a big adventure bike, it feels like you're on a 250 or something. And in terms of power, it kind of reminds me of the inline 4 600s that were very popular in the 80s and 90s. They were all inline 4s that sold in numbers in those days, of course. And this is an inline triple, but it's a little bit more fruity. It's got a little bit more torque. And the torque on this bike is about 59 pound per feet. Maybe it's 57 actually, I think. And it's around 116 horsepower. And I think for the coming year, the power on the R goes up to 120 PS, I believe, on the R, and 130 PS on the RS, which is 128 horsepower, and again around kind of 59-60 pound per feet of torque in a very lightweight bike. It's hard to compare the weight comparisons year on year because I think last year they specified the dry weight of the bikes, and this year they're only specifying wet weight road ready. And I think the RS model for this coming year weighs in at I think 414 pounds wet. So they are definitely relatively lightweight road bikes for what are essentially 750 triples. And back in the day, when I were a young lad, my brother and I always used to say, do you know what the ultimate road bike would be? It would be a lightweight 750 with really high quality components in terms of suspension and brakes and geometry, making about 125 horsepower. And of course that's pretty much what we have in this, but particularly in the incoming new year models, particularly in the RS format. And particularly if I was to buy one, because I'm a flash git and I definitely want the RS. You know, with 128 horsepower and 60 pound per feet, in a lightweight bike with Öhlins rear shock and some nice big fork Showa suspension up front. And this is a Showa front and rear, I think. And Showa makes suspension for many manufacturers these days, Harley Davidson for instance. And of course Showa are made by Honda, and Honda know how to engineer things reliably. Well, that didn't suck. Having fun on his little striker. So one thing I noticed with this is it has quite a tall first gear and the others are fairly evenly spaced. And on the forthcoming model, I think it's still got quite a tall first gear, but it's a little bit lower, I think, than the outgoing model. And certainly the gears after that are a closer ratio, and the overall gearing is changed, which means the bike should feel a little bit more lively, a bit more peppy, should accelerate that a little bit better. And the engine's tuned for a little bit more mid-range, but I have to say that hasn't actually been a problem for me. You know, I'm trundling around here at 4,000 revs, 50 miles an hour in fifth gear, and I open the throttle and it's got a nice roll on. You know, it's not going to rip your arms off, but it's smooth and it's got some urgency about it. And I must find a gas station at some point because I've gone on to reserve here. And I think the range is pretty good on this. Rich says something about 160 miles or so. He's probably a little less throttle happy than myself. So I could probably, you know, kind of expect a little bit less than that. For the coming year, they've dropped a couple of litres from the tank. The tank is far prettier, it's slimmer, more angular and just cooler, kind of sportier looking, but less fuel. Okay, time to give you some stats and facts, and let's cut to that now. So the Triumph Street Triple R in this model year had a price of 11,000 for the R, about 12,000 Canadian. It featured fully adjustable Showa suspension, the Triumph Quick Assist bi-directional quick shifter, fairly grippy Pirelli Rosso 3 tyres, and in terms of the engine, it's a 765 inline triple, making about 116 horsepower with 57 pound per feet of torque and a dry weight of 370 pounds, which is 168 kilo in new money. The seat height was 32.5 inches or 825 millimeters. In terms of competition, there is the KTM 890 Duke R, the BMW F900R, the Kawasaki Z900, and the Yamaha MT-07/09. Up front, we've got some Showa big piston forks upside down, adjustable for preload, rebound damping and compression damping. On the R model, the rear shock is a Showa unit developed by Honda, and on the RS model, I believe it had an Öhlins STX40, fully adjustable with piggyback reservoir. Front brakes were twin 310mm, floating discs with monoblock radial calipers. I believe the RS had the M4 Brembos. On the rear is a single 220mm disc with a Brembo single piston caliper and switchable ABS. Wheels and tyres wise, we're looking at a 17-inch front and rear with a 120 section front and a 180 rear. The fuel tank is 4.6 gallons, which is a little higher than the incoming new models, which is around 4 gallons, I believe. The Street Triple R comes with a comprehensive suite of ride aids, including ABS, traction control and switchable rider modes. For this particular model, it's Rain, Road, Sport and Rider. This particular model is available in two colours, Sapphire Black or Matte Silver Ice. So the beauty of taking a bike like this on an extended test ride for like an hour or two, rather than just kind of round the block 15 minutes or so from your dealership, is that it can change your perspective and it can give you a much more well-rounded perspective. What I mean by that is when I got on this bike and started riding it, you know, I just leapt off my ginormous giraffe of a bike, the Triumph Tiger 1200 Rally Explorer, and so this felt very cramped and tiny and ergonomically not very good, you know, wrists were low, knees felt bent up, and literally for the first mile or two I was thinking, well, thanks for lending it to me, Rich, but you know, that dog will not hunt. Me and it are not going to get on. Me and this bike are not made for each other. But if you ride it a bit longer, what you find is that I've been riding about an hour and a half now, something like that. I'm perfectly comfortable. I've got no aches in my knees, I've got no aches in my wrists, and I've got no tingles in my hands. And my legs now feel at a comfortable angle. My back doesn't hurt, my neck doesn't hurt. It's not a 200 horsepower Street Fighter trying to rip my head off and shove it down my neck. It's a very usable bike on the road, something that has useful torque in the lower end and good mid-range torque that pulls strongly. And it's exciting because it's a very lightweight bike with pretty fair quality suspension. It's not the suspension quality of the RS for this model year, which is a bike bought in 2022, but I guess it's a 2023 because the forthcoming ones will be released in 2023, and I think Triumph calls those 2024 just for added confusion. And the reason why I'm coming down this road is to jar my feelings, because I know how horrific it is even on an electronically suspended adventure bike. So a bit of thorough testing, a bit of suffering from my subscribers, and so you get a much better understanding by riding it at a reasonable length, which is a really obvious thing to say, but how many of us have actually demoed a bike and taken it back within 10 minutes and said, no, it's horrible, it's definitely not for me, and you know, just not really giving it a chance. You know, it might be like that ugly girl at the bar. She might be fantastic, but you just got to give her a chance. But this isn't an ugly girl, this is quite an attractive looking bike, I think. And I think for the forthcoming year, they've really stepped up the looks again. I think it looks incredible, it's a really cool looking bike. And it's certainly given me something to think about in terms of what I do after this ride. You know, if I go back to a street bike or a naked bike or a hyper naked, whether I really need you know, Ducati Street Fighter V4S or a BMW M1000R competition, or whether, as I'm perfectly demonstrating here, just trundling around at half the rev range at the end of the day, having the time of my life at 60 miles an hour. You just got to find some twisty roads with a semi-decent surface, and it's like heaven. And so it's food for thought, because at the end of the day, the new RS, fully loaded with, you know, cruise control and heated grips, tail bag, whatever, a few accessories like that, or kind of essentials if you're me, the bike is still half the price of M1000R competition, for instance. And that's food for thought, I think. Oh, this is lovely. One thing I do love about this bike is the harder you push it, the better it feels. In that respect, it's like an RD350LC back in the day, if you remember those, or like one of the early CBR 600s when Honda build quality was sublime. It's just kind of got that rawness about it. It's not going to scare you to death, but it'll put a smile on your face, no question about that. And a good rider on this bike, on the road, you're as fast as anything. You're as fast as your friends on 1000cc bikes, no problem at all. Don't even give that a second thought. It's only really in the big open spaces that if they feel like it, they will crucify you. But then you're already well into take me directly to jail territory, so you know, what do you want? I hate this junction, it's so dangerous. I had some problems again with my wireless mic setup, which is annoying because she sounds sweet. It's a great soundtrack on this bike. It just goes wop, wop, wop. It's almost like a 2-stroke, 4-stroke, if you know what I mean. It's kind of got that 2-stroke wail to it, but with a much deeper bellow. It's like Sir Tom Jones is a 2-stroke, but he's got laryngitis. It's got some real induction roar. You know, you roll on the throttle and it goes wop, wop. But I can't do that too much because I'm nearly out of fuel at this point. I'm hoping to get it back to a gas station close to my friend's house so that I can fill up the tank fully for him as a quick thank you for letting me use his bike. But I'm having great fun on this bike today. The more I ride it, the more I feel at home on it. The more it's making me smile, the more I'm able to open the coals comfortably, enjoy it. And it's one of those bikes that the harder you push it, the better it feels. And really, with any bike with any sporty potentials, that's exactly how it should feel, right? You shouldn't feel like the bike's starting to feel kind of bouncy and unmanageable. It should start feeling like it's on rails, and you should start, thinking, yeah, now we're rocking and rolling. Now we're in the groove. What a day. Oh, frig me. Early March in Georgia. I freaking love this state. Love, 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 love it. The traffic lights are always green. The roads are always empty. The sun is always shining. The sky is always blue. Oh baby, life is good. And I'm having fun on a loaned bike, That's always great. It's like your birthday, isn't it? Of course, I'm not abusing the bike. I'm not revving it anywhere close to the red line. Mainly because I just don't need to. There is ample mid-range. Trundling around at, just under the speeds that we're supposed to be doing, without going insane, like I say. Certainly a little bit different from the Street Fighter V4S and BMW M1000R competition. On those bikes, when you get up to the 12, 13, 14,000 revs in second, third gear, boy, you better know what you're doing, because things begin to happen very, very fast. And so, with bikes like the Street Fighter and the M series BMW, you have to be honest with yourself and say, do I really need 200 horsepower on the road if I'm not doing track days, etc. So I don't know. If I go back to a naked, I need to see what my final thoughts are on that. What do you think I should do? Do you think I should buy a naked bike or maybe something from a different segment or genre? I'll be keeping the Tiger, but I'm really looking for something else to complement it. Or be, totally different from it. And I do like my little nakeds, and I've definitely been thinking that light is right. Colin Chapman, who designed the original Lotus 7, he was always right in that he said light is right. Most of us can have a lot more fun on a small capacity bike that is lightweight, that you can use and have fun with, than on some super powerful beast that you're trying to just tame all the time. And that is still true today, all these years later. Oh, the cherry blossom is out. Looks gorgeous. All I need now is a nice juicy Georgia peach and a nice cool drink in the sunshine. Actually, I'll take that back. All I need is more roads like this and some more time on this bike, because it is fun. I'm having a great day, as you can probably tell. Yeah, baby. Oh God, life is good, right? And just get out on your bike and ride it. I don't care what your bike is. On a day like this, it'll put a smile on your face. But if you've got a fun one, a bike that's quite light and agile and friendly, lots of fun. And on days like today, at least, you can enjoy it even more. And certainly this is fun. I'm really starting to gel with this bike now. I'm really starting to like it quite a lot. And as I say, it's kind of a grower, because I really didn't feel like that at first. I think you definitely have to ride this for a little while, start getting into the groove, start wrapping your knees around the tank a bit more, start understanding how much engine braking you've got. And it really does have a lovely soundtrack. No aftermarket pipes are required with this bike. It's definitely loud enough to give you a little bit of the fun factor, but not loud enough to be annoying and headache inducing. And I believe that the exhaust system for the forthcoming year is a little bit different. It's a little bit louder, only has one cat in it, and the canister and the cat are one-piece unit, so you have to replace the whole system if you want to change it. Just enjoying a nice cup of coffee. That's the reason why I emigrated, basically. I couldn't get a decent cup of coffee in England, so anyway, perfect end to a perfect day, really. Really enjoyed my time, sorry about the overhead plane. Really enjoyed my time riding the Triumph Street Triple, and that was last year's model and the R. So I think the 2023, particularly the RS, would be particularly good. I couldn't really fault the Street Triple R very much, really. If I was being harsh, I would say the rear shock is a little bit harsh at speed over harsh bumps. Totally livable, you know, the bike doesn't lose control or anything like that, but you just feel the bumps. You just know that with an Öhlins shock in there, it's going to ride those bumps a little bit smoother, and again, you know, almost predictably, I guess that's what you get with the 23 RS. And if I owned Richard's Street Triple R, that's probably the only upgrade I'd make. I'd put a better rear shock on it. I find the brakes, which are not M50s, I think they're M4s, they're ample, and the handling is great, and the forks are pretty good, and you know, everything works as intended. And it was even pretty frugal, although I did get down to single figures remaining on the fuel gauge, so I filled up the tank for him as a thank you. But you know, range seems fine, basically, particularly for a naked bike. Would I buy one? Well, I think if you're in the market for one and your pockets are not, I don't know how to put that, not that deep, you know, money's a bit of a struggle for you, perhaps you've got other priorities like kids and weddings and God knows what coming up, I think a used Street Triple R is spectacularly good value for money. It's a reliable bike, and really, you know, if money's a bit short, I wouldn't spend a single dime on it. I'd just buy it, put some gas in it, kick up the side stand, ride it all day long and have fun with it. If you're looking for a brand new bike and you have the money, you might get a good deal on a used a 2022 showroom R or RS, but I'm finding that they are very thin on the ground, and certainly my local dealer doesn't have any. They've cleared their stocks, so you've got to wait for the new ones to come through. And certainly the videos from Motorcycle News and Bike World and 44 Teeth, etc., all really rave about the new Street Triple R on the road and the Street Triple RS at the track, where it was launched in Jerez recently. And you know, what's not to like about those? They're still a keen price point, spec is good, and if you know what you're getting, like lack of wind protection and not tons of toys, but what you are getting is something that is, you know, super lithe, very, very lightweight, very agile, lots of fun, plenty of go on the road for sure for anybody really. And you know, you're not having to put massive tires on it every time they're due, you're not paying massive service bills, and you're not even paying that much at the pump. If you're just after a real world, real fun, enjoyable, naked, sporty bike, then whether you buy a used one, whether you get a deal on a 2022 one at a decent discount, or whether you just stump up and probably pay the full MSRP for a 23R or RS, it's all good. I would say don't give it a second thought, just buy with confidence. Anyway, I hope this has helped. If you've ridden similar bikes and there's not too much in terms of the competition, I'd say the KTM 890 is a lot more point and squirt. The Speed Triple is a bit heavier, and the Street Triple definitely carries its weight that little bit better. Then you know, if you want something a little bit more polished and refined, definitely go with the Triumph, I would say. And in terms of its size and capacity and wondering whether it's got enough go, I mean, I'm used to 200 horsepower bikes, and I wasn't left wanting today with 111 horsepower on the road. It's ample in the real world. In fact, I was chatting to a couple at the my Triumph dealer when I got back, enjoying a cup of coffee, and they were saying how much fun their MkII is, because you know, the Mazda MkII is bulletproof, it's lightweight, it's bags of fun, you can use all the power and it won't break the bank. And that's exactly what a Triumph Street Triple is. So think about that. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget, think about subscribing, liking and sharing this video with your friends. See you soon.
Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.